1. And that was a disaster. Full screen there. Sorry about that. Right. 3, 2, 1. And we're live. Welcome to this week's Safer Than Your Average. On the show this week, we've got Barry. Barry, if you just want to come in and introduce yourself.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Barry Millar. Until recently, I was the Deputy Chief Executive of the Association of Project Safety. Before that, I worked at the Northern Lighthouse Board, and before that, I worked in a consultancy.
Thanks, Barry. I don't know if you've seen the show before. We like to just go right back to the beginning where guests tell us a little bit about your early background, where you grew up.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I born and raised in Edinburgh, not really moved far at all. Went to South Morningside Primary and then moved on to Barri Millar High School, which my daughter's just started at S1 in Barri Millar in the same school. One of the same teachers is still there. He's the head teacher now. So yeah, I played rugby for Barri Millar. I played basketball for Barri Millar. I played golf until recently, until family commitments kind of got in the way. Interested in architecture and the history of architecture since I was a kid, really. So got involved in architecture when I left school. Worked for a small Edinburgh practice, Thomas Smith Associates. And then I moved on to consulting engineers, Harley Haddock Partnership. Enjoyed working both those jobs, completely different. Harley Haddock Partnership, had a great team of guys in the office, really enjoyable job. And then there was an advert came along for the Northern Lighthouse Board, and the tagline was, "Are you prepared to travel by land, air or sea?" And I thought, wow, that sounds like James Bond stuff, evening suits, jumping out of helicopters. It wasn't quite as glamorous as that, but it wasn't far off. It's lots of helicopters, lots of trips and fast boats, and lots of interesting scenery. And then I moved to the Association for Project Safety about 2 years ago and thoroughly enjoyed my time there. And now I'm in between roles and currently looking for a new career.
Okay, brilliant. So if anybody's out there watching the show and you want to hire Barry, he comes with a wealth of experience. Get on board, get in touch with him via LinkedIn or one of his social media platforms. So if we just talk about your kind of first role then, Barry, can you tell us a little bit more detail in it? How you got involved in that, how that came about?
Well, actually, I kind of stayed on till 6th year at school. Always kind of wanted to do architecture, but didn't really know what to do and how to go about it. So then I got the opportunity to start a practice, an architect's practice that I knew nothing about. I think I left school in the May or the June or something like that and went straight into this a trainee architectural technician role. Great bunch of guys, was made welcome as soon as I started. Played 5-a-sides with them on a Sunday evening, and just a great bunch of guys. Started off at Telford College doing built environment, I think it was called, a national certificate in built environment. And then I got there was an advert in the evening news at the time when they still used to put job adverts in the papers for a trainee civil engineering technician. And there was no real reason for changing or moving. It just seemed an interesting job. So I thought I would go for that. Got the job. Really enjoyed working at Harley Haddock Partnership. Got a lot of responsibility early on. Done a bit of design, a bit of reinforced concrete design, a bit of steelwork design. Done quite a lot of work on timber frame kit houses. We used to do a lot of the work for Walker Timber and designing the kit houses. Got involved in infrastructure, roads and drainage. One of the ones that really got me was the heritage site at, what's it called, New Lanark.
Yeah.
Some of the work there when they were refurbishing that, and that kind of got me interested in the sort of historic building side of things. I'd always been interested in history, particularly history of Edinburgh, but the history of architecture kind of started piquing my interest, and started reading books on architecture, historical, and the history of the buildings and areas. And then when the job came along to work at the Northern Lighthouse Board, it was just came along at the right time. Wasn't really looking to move on, but it seemed an interesting role. Civil engineering technician, sort of project manager, looking after refurbishment projects of the buildings, and basically getting a chance to travel around Scotland.
Yeah,
that was great. I loved that. But I got to the stage. I got promoted after being there a few years to head the department. So I was looking after all the building and estate maintenance. I had a really good team of technicians and project managers, and we had 207 sites throughout Scotland and the Isle of Man to look after. We worked with a really couple of good contractors over the years, developed a good system of doing the works. It was fantastic getting out to see some of these locations, but obviously you see the photos on the calendars or on the internet and it's beautiful blue skies, hardly a cloud. 99 times out of 100 it's driving hail at 90 degrees, it's 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, it's misty, it's, you know, so it was nice to get out, but the occasional glimpses of sunshine made it all worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. And it can be quite interesting trying to manage safety in an environment like that as well. Barry, can you tell us a little bit more information about your structure there, how you set that up?
I mean, we had a lot of direct workers, so we had our own technical staff who would go out and do the mechanical and electrical maintenance of the lighthouses. I wasn't really more involved in that. I was involved in the building and estate maintenance. So we would have contractors that would go out that would do the work for us. But, you know, the contractors that we worked with were great. They seen themselves as part of the team. They would tell people they worked with the Lighthouse Board, you know, and people wouldn't know they didn't. They were contracted, but they were so passionate about it. And it's one of these things, I suppose it's like train spotting if you're into train spotting. Once you get the bug for lighthouses, it's quite, you know, it really captivates you. And some of these guys love going around different lighthouses because they're beautiful buildings. For anybody who's got an interest in engineering, to see the magnificence of some of these buildings, how they were constructed, the work that went into them. I mean, some of them are 200-year-old. And it was nice to see people having a pride in what they were doing. But the health and safety element of it was tricky because you're expecting people to live on an island with basically no resources. It's not like an oil rig where you've got, you know, meals on tap, you're working in shifts. Some of these guys were pretty much living in timber huts because you couldn't get the materials out to site. You know, you couldn't put a site camp up because you were having to fly out with a helicopter, and the maximum load in a helicopter was 400 kilograms. So you can imagine the restriction that had on your site work straight away. You know, even trying to get a chemical toilet out in these places in a helicopter is quite difficult because there's no weight in it, but it's quite bulky. So you have to add extra weights on to make it flyable. So it was really enjoyable. It was very difficult, and none of the sites were the same. You know, everyone had a different problem. It had different logistics. It had different times of the year, so you had different weather restrictions, and all because all the lighthouses are different. There was different elements to do as well. So I mean, it was really, really enjoyable and worthwhile project. It was great fun.
Brilliant, brilliant. So if we talk a little bit more through your career journey then, Barry, why did you give it all up and move to the Association for Project Safety?
To be honest, the timing was right. I got the opportunity to leave when the time was right. I probably, in terms of my career progression, I probably should have left a couple of years before. But I enjoyed the work, and it's a difficult one when you enjoy what you're doing. You know, it was the reason. One of the reasons that I was thinking about leaving, I'd almost gone full circle. So all the sites that I had worked on 15 years before were starting to come back. And I was starting to go to the same places on a reasonably regular basis. And the gloss sometimes wears off a wee bit when you're going back to the same places in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of winter, and you're driving for hours in the pouring rain. And it was time for a change. So I'd been a member of the Association of Project Safety since 2009. So I knew them pretty well. And it was just opportunity, really. There was 2 jobs I got offered at the same time, and this one seemed a bit there was a bit more purpose to it.
Yeah. So the Association for Project Safety, can you talk us through a bit of your work there then, Barry? Because I know you've done some really interesting projects with them and looked at developing that in quite a bit of detail.
The Association of Project Safety was set up in the mid-90s, when the construction design and management regulations came in. And it's evolved because originally it was an association for planning supervisors, which was one of the roles under the regulations. And then it changed in 2007 to the Association for Project Safety. And when the regulations changed again in 2015, it had another sort of morph. So I kind of came in as involved looking after the membership side of things, but obviously trying to develop policy, technical standards, a little bit of business development, engaging with other organisations, and really trying to work in collaboration with other industrial professional trade bodies.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your day-to-day role there then, what you were involved in and how you were progressing that?
Yeah, it was every day was different, to be honest with you. Like a lot of these membership organisations, they're kind of governed by the board, made up of members. So we were led by the board, but APS also had a council, which a lot of these membership organisations have. So the council looked after the sort of technical membership side, and the board looked after the governance and the business side of things. So I had a great team of staff at APS. When I started, I was in head of membership, and then the way things worked out, I was end up looking after the events as well as the marketing side as well. So we had a good team of ladies in APS at that time. A very small office in Edinburgh. At that time, I think we had just under 5,000 members, a lot of corporate members as well. So I really enjoyed it. I was going out and meeting other organisations like CABE, CIAT, ICE, REBA, anybody you can think of, we were trying to engage with and work in collaboration. There's an awful lot of organisations out there that do a very similar thing, but a lot of them seem to think that they're doing it on their own, and there's a real appetite for collaboration there and working together. And of course, IOSH are a massive membership organisation as well. So there's a lot of cross links between all these organisations. And from my point of view, it's the only way that we can work is work in collaboration with others. There's no point us doing the same thing, but slightly differently.
Yeah, I've been trying to promote that as well. We've had people from ROSPA on the podcast. We've done some work with SCOLSA recently. I've done some stuff with the Scottish Government for Road Safety Scotland as well, just trying to promote the message on fatigue. So it's fantastic trying to get that cross-pollination across multiple of these organisations. If we move on a little bit then, Barry, to talk about what's been your biggest challenge in health and safety?
I think there's quite a lot of challenges. I mean, I have not been sort of out and out health and safety. I've very much been involved in the construction side of things. You know, how do we make it safe for the guys on site to do their work? Although I was involved with the trade unions for a long time, and I was a health and safety rep for our branch, so I had a hand in workplace health and safety as well. But I think the difficulty is that people see health and safety as a hindrance. They almost see it as a reason to stop them from doing their work. And why would they want to do this? And why do they care if I do that? I'll just bash on and get this done. But it's that, I don't know if it's just the construction sector or if it's just the culture of in the UK. You know, people would rather try and just get things done. But I've always been an advocate, particularly the CDM regulations, that, you know, they're there to help us and make things better for us. And I think there's a bit of a disjoint between the people sitting in the office and the guys on site doing the work. And even in simple terms in risk assessments, you know, how many people do a risk assessment and actually involve the people that are carrying out the task?
Yeah.
It's generally done by an office manager or a health and safety manager who works a risk assessment and it's emailed to somebody to sign. But in real times, if we could take the time to go through the task, assess it with the person, because there might be stuff that they can identify that we're maybe putting down wrong, or we could change the way we do things slightly differently. So, but I think that's changed over the last 10 or 15 years. I think people are seeing that health and safety is there to help us. But I think there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, there's still quite a big journey to try and build that collaboration at site level and get people thinking in the mindset. It's something that I'm very passionate about myself, looking at that cultural change and how you influence people to do what you want them to do without telling them. The biggest tip that I ever got was ask them to do it. Have you asked them?
Yeah.
If we move on a little bit more then, Barry, to talk about where do you see yourself progressing to in the future? What's next for you?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I've set up a small consultancy in the hope that I can generate some business and help people in terms of construction, health and safety and design risk management. But at the moment, I'm still kind of focused on getting another job. A bit out of left field, I would like to work in the sort of charity sector, maybe involved in housing associations or something like that. But I was involved in an organisation called Link Living for about 11 years. I was on the board there, and I really like having that purpose of helping people.
Yeah.
And Link Living was a care provider that looked after people in the sort of central Scotland, Fife, Edinburgh regions who needed help, who needed assistance to look after themselves, who had maybe had some misfortune or a lack of opportunities in their life. And even working with the Lighthouse Board and Association with Project Safety, there's a real purpose to it. There's a defined reason for what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. And I kind of like that. So I've got the opportunity now to maybe move about and maybe change industry or change sectors, certainly. So at the moment, I'm working on a couple of business ideas. I've got an idea for a software platform that I'm speaking to developers, sort of engaging with sectors of the industry to see if it's something that people would like to purchase, if there's a need for it. So very early stages at the moment. So I'm kind of at a crossroads at the moment, just trying to make up my mind what way I want to go, which is quite a nice position to be in. But I can't sit here thinking for too long.
Brilliant. And what advice would you give to someone starting out in health and safety today, Barry?
One of my bugbears in health and safety is a sort of strict adherence to the rules and the regulations without applying any common sense or problem solving. I've been an engineer for such a long time. My brain works in sort of logical processes, and I've always kind of said there's no such thing as a problem. It's a bit corny, I suppose, but there isn't. There's just, we need to think about how we can resolve a problem so we can make something work. And I've worked with health and safety people in the past who will just say, you can't do it, and they walk away. Well, the concept of modern health and safety is, well, let's understand the problem and let's try and work out a solution to that. So I would say to people coming through the industry, that's the way to look at it. It's not, you're not there as a policeman, you're there to try and highlight problems, but also come up with a solution. And I think as we move into the sort of the more modern era, as people are coming out of university as health and safety professionals, I think that mindset will change, or it already changed in some of them.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to the students just last week that were starting at the University of the West of Scotland on their first year of their degree programme, and about a third of them, I reckon, were already in industry, working in safety roles with experienced people guiding them through the process. I was very fortunate when I started out in my career. I got to work with a great gentleman called Murray Proven, who was an HSE inspector, and he used to tell me, you're in the solutions business, you're not in the health and safety business, you're in the solutions business. Don't come up with a problem without having an answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always taken that approach, and it's stood me in good stead going through my career. It's an area that I'm very passionate about as well, to try and be able to factor in those solutions, because there's no such thing as a problem. There's only varying degrees of challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been really impressed in my time at APS with some of the younger workers and professionals that I've met. It's a bit of a fallacy that you've got to have been in the industry for 40 years to be good at health and safety and understand design risk management, the CDM regs. I've met some fantastic graduates who have come out of university that have grasped it straight away, that could knock the socks off some of these so-called experienced professionals, and they probably won't get the chance because they've got to wait till they've served their time and they've got to build up a reputation. But it's just a different mindset, and you hit the nail on the head there. It's about looking at the problems and coming up with solutions. And I think that the younger generation, not that I'm that old, mind you, but the younger generations are coming through with a sort of built-in problem-solving mindset.
Yeah.
So I think things will start to move.
Yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds with health and safety. There seems to have been a little bit of a reset with the whole COVID-19 situation. A lot of times safety was seen as a bolt on to businesses, Now, right back out at the forefront, businesses couldn't have survived through the going into lockdown, the new normal, trying to remobilise your offices and your workplaces back to where you needed them and putting all the control measures in place. All of a sudden, the health and safety person has become the forefront of driving industry again. And it's a great place to be. I think long may it continue.
I think it's more a focus on quality, and it's a holistic view at projects and even companies. You know, health and safety, as you say, isn't a bolt on. It's part and parcel of what we do. And really, health and safety can drive business efficiencies if you're looking at things properly. So it's all, I mean, I'm right into continuous improvement and quality management and all these sort of things, but it's a business concept that I think is alien to a lot of people in industries, particularly in the construction sector, because they're so used to doing things the way we've always done it. But there is a drive now for innovation. And you know, we've got the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, which is fantastic, which is coming up with lots of innovative ideas and working with universities. But construction can learn a lot from innovation, using data to drive decision-making processes and all these sort of things. So I think you're right. I think out of COVID, we're going to see a change in the way we work, and I think it's going to be for the better. We're going to understand the problems better, and we're going to come up with solutions quicker because we have to. You know, we have to adapt, and the industry has adapted.
And what do you think's in store for the construction industry now, going off the back of COVID-19?
I don't know. I was speaking to a couple of people last week who were saying that a lot of construction companies are now seeing that throwing 100 guys to a job isn't actually as efficient as maybe sending 50 in. But I'm obviously got a project management background, and I've done a bit of agile and lean management. And if you think about the tasks and break them down, there's cheaper solutions to some of the things that we do, not through spending less, but thinking smarter and using resources better and timing things. I mean, I was speaking to somebody this morning who said they had new houses getting built near them, and they rushed to build all the houses, or this was a while ago, before COVID, rushed to build all the houses, and they lay empty for months and months and months. And then when they were working again, there was vans everywhere, everybody working over the top of each other, the electricians waiting for the plasterer, the painter waiting for the electrician, and everybody complaining to everybody else because they were desperate to get on and get the work done. Other industries use it. Unfortunately, I think construction industry lags behind a wee bit, but I think something like this will generate some appetite for change and improving how we do things.
Yeah, but I can inter-team collaboration. I had a principal testing engineer that once told a project manager that project managers believe that if a woman was pregnant, if there was 9 pregnant women, they would have the baby in 1 month. Threw 9 people at it, and it went very pear-shaped very quickly in that meeting with that conversation. I don't think the project manager saw the funny side of it, but I kind of got where he was coming from with the analogy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think there's a difference between project management and managing a project. I think traditionally people have seen themselves as project managers because they've been in charge of a project. But the project management is really about the processes and the checks and making sure everything's running according to plan and setting up things. I think there's a real opportunity for the construction sector to get involved in an agile mindset. You know, setting up a daily task or a daily list of tasks, working out with the team what you actually need to do. Is there any problems that are going to stop us from doing this? Having an end of week review to see what you've done, what we're planning for the next week, what are the obstacles or what are the obstructions that we need to try and work through. When I first started looking into agile, I thought this would never work in construction. Construction is very much sort of the traditional waterfall. You plan it at the start and you have all your milestones and you finish it. But the more I've been involved in agile, and the more I've looked at agile and tried to understand it, it's a mindset. It's getting everybody involved in the discussion process and the decision-making process, and relying on the people that know what they're doing to guide you in making that decision. So I think we're at the, I don't want to be strong and say we're at a revolution, but I think we're almost at that stage where the evolution of construction needs to change. It needs to move in a slightly different direction if it wants to be productive and be efficient. So keeping my fingers crossed that we'll come through this.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that permeate into some industries. Some of the best projects, they've got that kind of PMO approach, that they have the stand-up meeting every morning, work out what the key milestones are for the day, and then take them through. Right, this is the hazards and risks on site
Yeah.
today. This is how we're going to organise everybody to be out of the way when they need to be, and then having that kind of wash-up meeting at the end of the day to see how it went, and then reopening the project every morning with a kind of stand-up meeting and close-out meeting. It's an excellent way to run a project, and it means that you're going to hit all your key milestones all the way through the project.
When
I
they're,
know Highways England operate quite like that in a lot of their projects. A lot of the kind of big water utilities are starting to go down that road, so it's an excellent way of running it.
yeah, you've just got to make sure you get the commitment from the people that are involved to buy into that concept, because it's alien, it's different, and we don't really like doing things that we don't know. So I think other industries have taken it on board and it's worked really well. But I think construction can probably learn quite a lot from that sort of lean concept or agile mindset.
Yeah, it has to have a strong PMO up front as well, doesn't it, to run
Yeah.
all of the meetings and keep it all ticking over and make sure it's meeting all the milestones. So it's that's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's excellent. It's exciting to see that starting to permeate into the industry. I'd love to see it with a kind of big commercial construction project, how it would shape up.
Mhm.
I think businesses would find that after the initial teething trouble, they'd be hitting efficiencies all over the place. The change management wouldn't be as bad. They would have a lot of kind of interactions between their people, and there wouldn't be all the conflict on site, which then leads into a safer site.
But you know yourself, and you enjoy working in the office, that you enjoy what you're doing, and people are more productive when they're happy. And you know, the science has proven it. If you have a happy workforce, they're more efficient, they're more productive, the job's better, the quality of the job's better. And I think that's something that other industries need to look at. You know, they do it in big companies and software and all these sort of things. And it's a move to a slightly different mindset. It's empowering people to do their job, give them a task, let them get on with it, rather than sort of the micromanaging. And I mean, it's not new age, but we're probably lagging slightly behind in other sectors.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for coming on the show, Barry. I really appreciate you coming on. How do people get in touch with you if they want to get a hold of you?
They can catch me on LinkedIn. No, all my details are there. That's probably the easiest way. I think my phone number's there, my email's there, my LinkedIn profile's there. So
Brilliant.
that's probably great.
So if you want to get in touch with Barry, get in touch with him. He's looking for a new role at the moment. I don't think he'll be on the market long. And thank you very much for coming on the show, Barry.
No, my pleasure, Blair. Thanks for inviting me.